Alex Jeffrey Pretti. ICE murders another in Minneapolis, Minnesota. From Portland, Oregon to Minneapolis, Minnesota to Portland, Maine, ICE's army keeps terrorizing people all across the country. They're not on a targeted mission focusing on undocumented migrants. They're on a dragnet operation that is designed to cause outrage and incite people. As I was writing for 10 minutes, and then a friend notified me that Minneapolis was erupting because yet another murder by ICE in broad daylight. ICE keeps provoking protesters with flashbang grenades and smoke grenades. Protesters have remained entirely peaceful, just using words. ICE responds by throwing chemical bombs at civilians after this killing had happened, the second killing, this one of a gentleman who, by all accounts, was an example of what a good American is. Protesters were not inciting unrest. ICE is, in broad daylight, after murdering yet another person, who is a 37-year-old white male, Alex Jeffrey Pretti, an ICU nurse for the local VA hospital, a resident of the city who only had traffic tickets on his record and is a lawful gun owner with a permit to carry. And I wanted to bring that out and point that out, a couple of things to you about Alex Pretti here. He chose to be an ICU nurse at the Veterans Hospital. If you are an ICU nurse and go to other private hospitals, you get paid a heck of a lot more than you get paid at the VA. The VA doesn't pay you as much as other private institutions, other private medical organizations and hospitals. But Alex Pretti decided he wanted to serve our veterans as an intensive care unit nurse. And he was a resident who was lawful and law-abiding enough that he was given a lawful gun owner license to carry gun. And as we have seen in the various perspective videos, that at no point in this incident and in the murder of Alex Pretti did Alex Pretti reach for the gun that he had holstered on his waist. The protesters kept growing despite ICE's attacks with the flashbang grenades and chemical weapons. One protester was screaming, "We have whistles, our voices, stop gassing us, stop assaulting us, stop hurting us. Our neighbor was murdered." Many chanted, "Cowards." And just as I was watching this, the power went out in my house, and so I couldn't follow through, but it gave me some time to condense and think, and then also read and listen to Professor Heather Cox Richardson and what she had to say about what happened. And so I'm going to read you now from her Letters from an American, which I have referenced in the description box. Video from the scene shows Pretti directing traffic on a street out of an area with agents around, then trying to help another person to get up after she had been pushed down to the ground by the agents. The agents then surround Pretti and shoot pepper spray into his face, then pull him to the ground and from behind him and hit him as he appears to be trying to keep his head off the ground. An agent appears to take a gun out of Pretti's waistband during the struggle, then turns and leaves with it. So Pretti was subdued, Pretti was pepper sprayed and blinded, and he was disarmed. All of these things happened before he was shot. A shot then stops Pretti's movements, appearing to kill him, before 9 more shots ring out, apparently as agents continued to fire into his body. After he was dead, the agents walked away, apparently making no effort to preserve this crime scene, which people on the street later tried to secure by walling it off with trash bins. New York Times reported that federal agents have blocked state investigators from the scene. Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension says that a statewide investigation team that specializes in police shootings told reporters their agency had obtained a search warrant, which is a rare step, but the federal government still refused them access. Tonight, a lawsuit against Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and other administration officials, Minnesota asked a federal judge for a temporary restraining order to prevent DHS agents from destroying evidence related to the shooting. The suit noted the astonishing departure from normal investigations, seemingly trying not to preserve evidence, but to destroy it. A judge who was appointed to the bench by Trump immediately granted the restraining order, barring the administration from destroying or altering evidence concerning the killing. And do you really think that was successful? Do you really think that ICE would have left evidence there? I am more likely inclined to believe that ICE, despite this court order, and even perhaps before it, were already destroying evidence of this crime. But what is just part of reality in this age, this digital age, is that nobody can go into the public without at least somebody being there with a camera, especially when there is this sort of alarmed environment of caution and vigilance because your city and state is being invaded by a federal force. The DHS said that it, rather than the FBI, would investigate the shooting. So traditionally, even if federal agents are the ones investigating crimes in states, it is the FBI that does it. DHS does not have the jurisdiction to investigate criminal activity. It is a Department of Homeland Security, and it does not come into play into domestic affairs. It deals with national security issues. So the jurisdiction would be the Federal Bureau of Investigation that investigates all criminal acts that would fall within federal jurisdiction. And here, because it was murdered by a federal agent, a citizen of Minnesota and the United States, it should be investigated by the FBI. But even the FBI, we can't totally put our faith in right now. Professor Richardson reads on that the New York Times wrote videos on social media that were verified by the New York Times contradict the DHS account of the fatal shooting of a man by federal agents in Minneapolis on Saturday morning. Department of Homeland Security said the episode began after a man approached Border Patrol agents with a handgun and they tried to disarm him. But footage from the scene shows the man was holding a phone in his hand, not a gun, when federal agents took him to the ground and shot him. But lying to the American people is the only option the administration has when they can, once again, when we can, once again, all see what happened with our eyes. Pretti did have a permit for a concealed handgun, and it appeared to have carried the gun with him, although witnesses say he never reached for it. Tonight, Noem doubled down on the lie, saying this looks like a situation where an individual arrived at the scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement, when the videos from various perspectives completely contradict this lie from DHS, and they're still just spewing it. In the wake, and this is just mind-boggling to me and critical, in the wake of Pretti's shooting, AG Pam Bondi wrote to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz to suggest that he could bring back law and order in Minnesota if he handed over the state's voter rolls to the Department of Justice. She explicitly tied the administration's violence in the state to its determination to get its hands on voters' personal data for the 2026 election. That is criminal, that is unconstitutional, that is unconscionable. First of all, the federal executive does not have the constitutional authority to even touch election documents, let alone make it a conditioned precedent for removing a terrorizing, marauding roving patrol ICE army that is killing US citizens. To make this condition, it clearly shows that the administration is going after democratic cities and states because it wants to have a chilling effect not only on the administration in these states, but also on the citizens before the 2026 elections. And in the background, working to get information on voters for the 2026 elections. Now, I will read you something that really is heartbreaking. And I am outraged by all of this, but I am more than anything sad. I am very sad that this is the second person ICE has murdered in broad daylight. And I feel helpless and I feel outraged. And this is what Alex Pretti's parents had to say. We are heartbroken, but also very angry. Alex was a kind-hearted soul who cared deeply for his family and friends, and also the American veterans whom he cared for as an ICU nurse at the Minneapolis VA hospital. Alex wanted to make a difference in this world. Unfortunately, he will not be with us to see his impact. I do not throw around the term hero term lightly. However, his last thought and act was to protect a woman. The sickening lies told about our son by the administration are reprehensible and disgusting. Alex is clearly not holding a gun when attacked by Trump's murdering and cowardly ICE thugs. He had his phone in his right hand and his empty left hand is raised above his head while trying to protect the woman ICE just pushed down, all while being pepper sprayed. Please get the truth out about our son. He was a good man. And just to think what these parents had to go through to be able to see frame by frame how their son was murdered by federal agents, to have to come out and explicitly point out what Alex Pretti was doing when he was murdered by ICE. He was protecting somebody else. He was doing what he instinctively does, is take care of others. And he was killed and murdered and shot at point blank range. Just hours after Alex Pretti was murdered, agent pinned down yet another man and he started screaming, "I'm a US citizen. You're going to kill me. Are you going to kill me? I've done nothing wrong." And his sobbing wife was nearby screaming, "Stop, please stop. We were just running away from the gas. That's all we are doing." This is happening in Minnesota, in the United States, by United States federal agents against United States citizens. Think about where we are. Call your Republican senators and representatives to say it is enough. It is now time to remove this administration. It is now time to put our foot down. Because Trump's regime is now openly killing US citizens, and it is lying to us when we know what they're doing because of people with their cameras recording. That's what Heather Cox Richardson says in her politics chat. This marauding should only be called what it is. It's federal invasion into states and a reckless disregard for dual sovereignty and human life and voter rights. ICE has crossed all constitutional boundaries with their roving patrols, abductions, murders, detentions, and illegal criminal home invasions, all under the guise of immigration enforcement. No national emergency short of world war or civil war permits our government to abandon requirements set out in our Constitution and its amendments. But as I speak, ICE is violating somebody's constitutional rights. whether it be on the streets of Minneapolis or in Portland, Oregon, in Portland, Maine, in Chicago, in Los Angeles, or in Louisiana, in New Orleans, in Memphis, wherever, in Portland, Maine, wherever they are violating somebody's constitutional rights. Whether a citizen, a legal migrant, or undocumented immigrants, all persons have the same constitutional rights under our Constitution and amendments. ICE agents have been breaking and entering into homes since May of last year. At least that's how long the agency has been operating on a policy directly violating the Fourth Amendment. Whether residents of a residential property are documented migrants or not, citizens or not, the government can only enter a person's home through a judicial Article 3 court warrant or consent of the residents or extreme circumstances. Even if one resident of a dwelling present at the time does not consent to the government coming in, the government cannot enter the dwelling without a judicial warrant or an immediate circumstance like defense of victims from imminent harm. That is the law. ICE does not have the power to skip over the law and say they can violate people's Fourth Amendment rights flagrantly and openly as long as they have an immigration final order of final removal. Entering a dwelling requires consent of all physically present, a judicial warrant, or an emergency that compels law enforcement to enter to prevent imminent harm or loss of life. An immigration order of final removal isn't a judicial warrant or a consent or an exigent circumstance. Presidents Obama and Biden deported millions of people in their time. Neither of them unleashed ICE on American cities. Neither broke into homes. Neither kidnapped children. Neither shot and killed U.S. citizens in broad daylight under their presidencies. But somehow that has become necessary because, according to Trump, Obama and Biden allowed in many people who Trump thinks don't belong in America. Whether they have legal status or not, even those who are naturalized citizens are being openly targeted by Trump's ICE army. This weekend, in the freezing cold, before the murder of Alex Pretti, Minnesotans spilled over onto the streets and gathered in thousands to peacefully and aggressively protest ICE's ongoing terrorism. People are literally seeing ICE keeps flagrantly stepping out of their jurisdiction and causing bedlam in American cities. ICE is provoking Americans to revolt. And ICE is murdering innocent U.S. citizens who are peacefully letting ICE know that what they're doing is not right or legal. Or if they are stopping or getting in the way of ICE assaulting others and helping them get off of the ground. They are shooting people like that who are helping others. Trump wants us to act out destructively. Remember this. Don't give him that satisfaction. Don't give him the legal reason to invoke the Insurrection Act. Things are already out of hand. When you protest, do so peacefully, like Alex Pretti was doing. That is why it is even more so stark and alarming that they went after and killed Mr. Pretti, shot and killed him with one shot, and then riddled him with bullets 10 times in total. So for the rest of us, the impulse to physically push back or spit at ICE agents may seem like legitimate protest and may even rise to the level of being the moral equivalent of what expression you would have of disgust and sadness and rage. But such assaultive acts are not protected by the First Amendment, and ICE will use that to arrest you or abduct you or kill you and disappear you, remove evidence of you. Don't give them that chance. Organize massive protests, remain peaceful, be creative, engage with your fellow protesters, chant, dance, scream. Don't obstruct federal agents, even if what they're doing is illegal or criminal. But keep recording, keep witnessing. Witness their crimes, record them, and submit them to state databases compiling data on criminal and illegal acts by ICE, like Illinois is doing with Illinois Accountability Commission. And even if Minnesota doesn't have them, you should go and see if the Illinois Commission will take those videos just to keep record, since Minnesota doesn't have that apparatus. But if Minnesota does have that, I don't know. Go and inform these databases, because states have to take the lead in prosecuting these people. States have general jurisdiction over these cases. This is murder. There is no statute of limitations for these acts. And the states need to take the lead, because Donald Trump's regime will not. Stay away from ICE, but not too far that you can't see what they're doing. If they come after you, back away, but keep recording. In today's digital age, don't let Donald Trump's secret police operate in secret. Make them infamous. They deserve nothing less. Remember to stay safe, stay vigilant. Always be mindful of people around you. Always be friendly with your neighbor. Watch out for your neighbor. Watch out for strangers, like so many Americans and Minnesotans are doing. And that is enraging the federal government and Donald Trump's regime. And Donald Trump's regime is now openly extorting the state of Minnesota for voter rolls to stop this marauding, roving patrol ICE army that is wreaking havoc and murdering U.S. citizens on American soil. So raise your voices, call your Republican representatives and senators. Whether you are a Democrat or not, call your Republican senators if you are in red states with Republican senators. Make sure that their phones are flooded and their voice boxes are full of your protest and your demand to see that DHS and ICE not be funded for committing these murders and carrying out these illegal, unconstitutional detentions, intrusions, murders, abductions in broad daylight. They need to be stopped. This DHS needs to be stopped. Kristi Noem and Donald Trump need to be impeached and removed. That is your duty. And if 20 senators and 3 members of representatives have the backbone to say that, no, this is enough, that is enough to impeach and remove Donald Trump from office. And Congress has that power. So call your representatives, your members of Congress, and Republicans specifically. Even if you're in Democratic districts, call Republicans. I will provide the links to the Congress's information contact information web pages in the description box. With that said, thank you for listening. Take care of yourself, and I will talk to you soon.